everyone, and welcome back to DBR on CBR. That's right, it's time for the best time of the week. It is Dragon Ball Rewatch, and we hope you are watching along with us on Hulu and Crunchyroll. And if you are reading along with us, we hope you are reading along in the Viz Media translation. Once again, we are your hosts. My name is Alyx.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John. We're at episode 26, the grand finals. Japan got this August 20th, 1986. American, September 24th, 2001. We're adapting 4 chapters, which is quite a lot. The final match, the Kamehameha, One Lucky Monkey, and The Big Sleep, because all manga reading children love references to noir films from the 1940s. Yeah, and we've got finally the Goku versus Jackie Chun match we've all been waiting for. This episode is interesting.
It is. And I mean, it's a fight episode. It's the most fight-centric episode I think we've had so far in the show. And, you know, there are gags to be had, but we're in it. This is a grueling brawl between these two combatants.
And this episode has one of my favorite little first-time things to happen. Our first beam struggle of the entirety of Dragon Ball happens here, which is so cool.
This is the first beam struggle, the first episode to have a fight that goes across more than one episode, because it goes into the next one and technically goes into the one after that. I mean, the ending isn't called. So yeah, this is an episode of firsts and an episode of fun continuity, because I do love, you hear the announcer say, this will be the only time in your lives you see 2 masters of the Kamehameha fighting each other. It's like, oh, how little you knew. How little Toriyama knew at this point.
And yet they let him keep the job.
I mean, how was he meant to know that anything that was... Imagine, like, in universe, these guys who were, like, living now, like, oh, this is unusual. And then in, 15 years, what the world is going to be like? Oh, by the way, aliens and alternative universes exist.
By the way, also God.
And he's a cat for some reason.
Speaking of the Kamehameha wave, I mean, it's the first time that Roshi's seen Goku do it in months. And obviously, Goku being stronger. Initially, he's like, oh, you're going to use my own technique against me. And of course, he gets surprised just how much. And it's not the only thing that Goku uses against him. He also uses the after image and tops him with it.
Like, but yeah, he does his triple after image versus Roshi's double. Imagine an alternative universe where the after image became Dragon Ball's signature attack and not the wave, and like Beerus thinks I can do 12 of them.
I mean, you know, that happened in Naruto. That's just the Kagebunshin no Jutsu.
Naruto, always a little bit behind the curve.
Always a little behind the curve.
Just to bring up an interesting thing here is there's a lot of weirdness with Roshi and Jackie Chun in this episode, both in the original and in the translation makes it worse. With Roshi seemingly, it's very unclear when Roshi is talking as Roshi and when he's talking as Jackie Chun. So famously in this episode, he says that Goku couldn't do the wave to get back into the arena. That's a mistranslation. In Japan, he just says, yours wouldn't be strong enough, which kind of checks out based on when he saw him do it last. It wouldn't be able to launch himself. But then he says, oh, you mastered it in a day, what I mastered in 15 years. And it's like, is that you overcompensating the Jackie Chun lie? Or did we just forget you've already said that? It's very up in the air.
Yeah. There are some very up in the air moments throughout the episode when it comes to like certain levels of continuity in the dialogue, but I wouldn't have noticed it if you hadn't pointed it out, because now I'm just thinking back on it.
It's worse. I don't think you would notice it if you're not in the situation we are, where we've seen these episodes a lot of times. I'm like, oh, that's odd.
What do we think of drunken boxing Roshi?
Why did we not get more of this?
Yeah, this is opened a rabbit hole for me, because obviously this is a reference to a Jackie Chan film, Drunken Master from 1978. So that's a really nice reference. I like the fact it's Gohan's technique as well, which is just really funny to me. One thing I find really fun is that in the manga, they have the thing of Roshi, oh, Goku can't copy this because he's never been drunk. Mm-hmm. But Goku doesn't copy it in the manga because he says, I can't punch someone who is drunk. Which opens up a load of questions, but again, gives Goku this really fun very childish morality, even though he's clearly messing with you, but he's acting this way, so I can't hit him.
Yeah, it's. I do want to point out just really quick. I've always loved the drunken master shtick, not just from Jackie Chan and Jackie Chun, obviously, but I've always really loved that concept in martial arts media. And then, speaking of Naruto, it gets carried into Naruto, it gets carried into a lot of other anime as well. But the thing that I've always found very I know that it is kind of a real thing. I don't know how really based in reality it is, but the thing that I always kind of threw me off about it was the idea is it's supposed to be very unpredictable and very like you don't know what's happening. But I don't know if it requires you to sing at the same time, but that always happens. So I am very curious about like whether or not it's just about continuing with the unpredictability of it all, the Deadpool energy of it all, or if it's just to show the drunken life.
And it throws off your opponent. You're continually making noise, so good luck focusing on what you're doing. It's kind of like the magician's thing where you move one hand a lot to compensate for what the other hand is doing. It's that same idea. I'm making lots of noise. You're going to be thinking, what's he doing? And then I punch you inside the face. One thing I did notice here is that the Toonami broadcast changed the name of this move to Mad Cow Technique, which I find really funny because this is how I learned that apparently mad cow disease was not a major crisis in America, which it was in the UK when this was being broadcast. So for me, this joke always confused me because I thought, oh, Roshi's got mad cow disease? That's a parasite which humans can get and it affects the brain. So I thought they were saying that Roshi was acting like he was like diseased. Turns out, no, Americans didn't want to hear him be drunk. But their change in the UK was much more offensive because it was basically, here's an actual. Remember, UK beef was banned in Europe because of mad cow disease for many years. There was a big thing when someone ate British beef on camera to prove it was safe. So having this, it's so weird to me that, oh, we can't show the kids getting drunk. And then there's kids like me in the UK going, so he's dying of parasites?
He's dying of parasites? Oh my God.
Well, I guess he is strong.
Yeah, Scrubs the alcohol reference. I mean, one of the other things about it, Goku won't punch somebody who's drunk. It's Grandpa Gohan's technique. Does that mean he saw Grandpa Gohan drunk?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, based on sort of the mythology of this era, you can presume that alcohol consumption would be more common than water consumption because water wasn't purified.
I mean, you could make that assumption, but then last episode, Roshi's like, hey, water's free. Go grab it from that well. So it's clearly got to be like safe to drink. I think that Grandpa Gohan was just probably a lush.
It's safe to drink. It's safe to drink in the city. Goku hasn't lived in the city. They had to fly here. They lived by a river. So I presume Goku has been getting it from the river.
That's right. I also love how many Grandpa Gohan name drops we get. We had a lot of good Grandpa Gohan name drops, and I really love that. I like when we don't get a lot of Grandpa Gohan throughout Dragon Ball, even though we get more than you think. But it's always fun to get that little glimpse into the pre-death years.
I like how they do it here as well. They do it in a nice way that doesn't undo Goku's development. It's used to enhance Goku, which is it's always a problem when you introduce a father figure to an orphan character, is that sometimes the father can become much more interesting because you don't know him. But here they very clearly make it out. He is Roshi's friend. He knew what he was doing, but this moment isn't to make you think who was Grandpa Gohan. It's to point out that Goku is doing better than him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is this is the first opponent, as far as we know, Goku isn't hungry. I mean, you could argue he's always hungry, but
that's my secret, Cap.
Yeah.
That's the Blue Hulk.
Yeah. This is the first opponent we've ever seen him give him a run for his money. Like in a straight up punch fest. Yamcha only got the edge because he was hungry at the time. None of the previous contestants, I mean, Nam got close, but punch for punch, Roshi / Jackie Chun is holding his own against Goku, and Goku, it's fun for Goku. He doesn't feel threatened necessarily, but it's interesting to see how he reacts to that.
Yeah, we're having that thing of Goku being a much more adaptable fighter. It's unfortunate that the anime dropped something that's quite fun in the manga, because obviously in this anime, Goku develops crazy monkey style, where he just starts acting like an ape. You'll realize at first he's not acting like an ape, he's acting like a dog, which in the manga he does two techniques. He does a mad dog and then crazy ape. And there's a joke there where basically Yamcha goes, Roshi's using Suken, drunken master, and Goku mishears it and goes, well, I'm doing my mad fury attack by acting like a dog called Kaioken, which Roshi goes, that's not right. Goku says that he's using fury, Kaioken, and Roshi's like, that means mad dog, you fool. And then Goku goes and uses mad monkey, which is Saru Ken. So it's all just this massive pun on Goku not knowing what drunken master means and trying to make his own version.
I first of all, I love the monkey thing because Goku's got his little monkey. I just but talking about his more monkey traits, I love Happy Goku wagging his tail. Like,
yes.
When Bulma yells out about dinner and his tail just goes up, like my cats when they hear the can pop open and he just starts wagging it, it's my favorite thing. I wish we had gotten adult Goku wagging his tail.
Yeah, it happens in this episode, but this episode as well, they do animate the tail quite a lot and give it almost characterization. Like when he trips Roshi with it, it starts to do this lots of weird wiggling, and they do a lot of good job of just characterizing this tail as, I weirdly say, almost as a separate being, which does kind of play into how Goku will act in Great Ape. Does have odd foreshadowing for Vegeta, because does Vegeta wag his tail? We'll have to.
He does puff his tail up. I will say that. So there is a scene during the Saiyan saga when Vegeta is kind of losing his mind, and you see the fur on his tail just puff up like a cat. So I think he probably, when he was little, he wagged it. I think that all of them wag their tails.
Yeah.
Saiyans, basically just dogs.
Basically, I mean,
I wonder if that's why Beerus hates them. Actually, that's probably the joke. Now I think about it, because that is a very Toriyama gag that the universe is split into cats and dogs, and they don't like each other.
Oh man, I think we've cracked the code. I think we won at Dragon Ball. That's it. End of podcast.
Cats, dogs, household appliances. That's the three main forces of life.
Yeah. I do think the two things that give Goku the edge at this age, which is to say the tail and the Nimbus Cloud, they're both sentient.
Oh yeah.
Nimbus Cloud's sentient too. So it's just he's got his Doctor Strange levitating cloak, which is also sentient, or Mjolnir, which is also sentient. So, you just need the buddy. You need the combat buddy.
And Goku can fly with his tail, like a little helicopter, apparently.
Yes. Like Tails.
But Tails needs two tails. Goku only needs one, which tells you that Goku is stronger.
Death battle confirmed. I did check. Apparently, the guy who made Sonic 2, the designer, was a massive Dragon Ball fan. So he could have actually got it from here. This could be why Tails can fly.
Yeah, I hope so.
The timing does sync up enough that it wouldn't be that strange.
I mean, look at Supersonic, dude. Look at Supersonic.
I mean, true. That's very on the nose.
Look at just Shadow. He's just Vegeta, who they hand a gun later. That's it.
We don't talk about Silver. Just sort of a funny thing in this episode is I like the fact we have sort of everyone starting to get a bit annoyed by the rules. Like Roshi complains after throwing Goku through the wall, why aren't you counting? Which I love, because it's this slow thing of everyone dawning on this tournament being nonsense, which I quite enjoy. Even with the flying, so everyone's like, oh, he's definitely gone. Oh no, he's coming back. And Roshi's like, come on. Even though Roshi cheats, Roshi gets thrown through. He's clearly out of the arena and he's touching the ground at one point, and not called. Hey, I demand a recount from that dog.
There's no way. There's nothing in the rules that getting hit in that direction knocks you out. Air Bud rules. This is all Air Bud rules.
Roshi confirmed Shawn Michaels at this event.
Episode 26 and episode 27 are really just seeing Roshi get progressively more frustrated and desperate as each of his surefire ways to win, double after images. We'll get into some of his techniques next week. None of them are good enough to put down Goku. And yeah.
I love how they kind of handle it's done well as well with the Jackie Chun personas slipping. going into to Roshi just giving up on being Jackie Chun and going, because this is the episode where Roshi goes, oh, Chun goes, I'm actually Roshi's uncle with his lovely diagram.
Baba's not on the diagram. There's no Baba.
Well, they're not invited to family events. That's why Baba's kind of estranged. But I love how you do sort of see Roshi slowly slip from, oh, I'm gonna drunken master time and all the weird stuff he was doing with Krillin, and to going like, well, time to pull out the move that kills people next episode, because I have reached the point.
He's just
I'm up here.
Yeah, he's getting close to his breaking point. He's already pissed off at the announcer. It's
And that's one reason I like the announcer shout, though, and you'll see him do it again next episode, is it does capture Roshi becoming frustrated.
Yeah.
Way that doesn't make him a bad person, because they've set it up enough that it's still a comedy moment. The announcer deserves it because he has been being weird. And in this case, it's Roshi being like, hey, I need this kid down. Stop messing around because I am running out of options.
Like, there's even that moment when he puts Goku to sleep and the announcer's like, isn't this kind of anticlimactic?
Oh, we'll get to that next episode, because that's a can of worms we need to dive into. Can I just bring up something like this episode that threw me in a not good way? Oh my God, the flashing lights. This episode, I'm going to put out, if you are photosensitive, do not watch this episode. It is... I know we talk a lot on this podcast about going back, how sort of culture shock of going back to old anime, but the biggest one of going back before Pokemon Shock happened is how liberal they were with flashing lights. Because this Pokemon Shock, for those who don't know, was the Electric Soldier Porygon episode, caused a lot of seizures in Japanese children. That was in 1997. Pokemon basically made a YouTuber apology video. They did a TV special where they had like the most friendly woman they could find in the company come and basically apologize to camera, and then explain in great detail what we're going to do to not make this happen again. But you go, and today I think you see a lot of anime fans treat it as kind of like, oh, it was a bit of mass hysteria, it was over, sort of done, because only a couple of kids went to hospital. Only a couple. But you go back and you realize, oh, wow, they were just so... there's the couple of sort of strikes in this episode where I had to turn down my screen brightness because I was getting a headache. It's like, wow.
Part of the thing with the Porygon episode specifically, and this episode, I can see where you're coming from on it. Part of the issue with the Porygon episode, and I don't know if they changed it here or if they just like were doing something different over at Toei at the time. The Porygon episode used a lot of red and blue as the flashing colors, and that was also part of the issue there. It was because of the massive shift in colors. And I agree with you. Here it is definitely if you are sensitive to flashing lights, this is not the episode.
The colors of the Porygon thing was the problem, but I think you get to this point, you look at this and you go, wow, it was clearly only a matter of time before one of them... Like, even if that episode had happened, you would have had a similar incident at some point, because sort of in the 80s and into the 90s, they were not...
Oh, yeah.
We hadn't invented it yet, so feel free to strobe as many frames as you want.
Seizures weren't a thing yet in the 1990s. I would know. I watched Sailor Moon.
Yeah, there are some bits in this episode where I was like, well, that's my head hurting for the next 20 minutes, and I'm not even photosensitive.
Neither am I. I mean, yeah, it is one of those things where it's just like, whoa, you know.
Yeah, I think it in a weird way, right? Because I feel because all of us are 90s kids except for me. I grew up in 1948. But I feel like when we were younger, we were almost more used to that. Like, it was because it was everywhere. It wasn't just Japanese animation either. It was also in American animation. You had like tons of flashing and like crazy shifts of color. And then the Pokemon Porygon episode came out and everybody kind of stopped doing that. But yeah, as an adult, I'm not used to seeing that anymore. Even in like video games, if there's like a light bloom, I'm like, oh God.
Like, yeah, I'm old enough. I remember playing games on the Commodore 64, which pretty much every game for that, game ends, flash screen repeatedly on 2 frames. And yeah, makes you wonder how we didn't have that problem before. But this episode, it's one of those things you go, oh, wow, yeah, this is a very old episode. And this, before, these days you would not do that. And even you can prove it with Super. It does not. Yeah. Even when it does flash lights, they are much slower for good reason. On a nice thing, can I point out how much I love the beam clash sound they have here? It's such a
Yeah.
nice. I know it's weird to say, but it's a very tactile sound. Like they use it feels very much inspired by I don't think what it is, but it has a vaguely technological bent to it. So it sounds like a mixture of like a gunshot and like almost like a fuse blowing,
Yeah.
which I think works really well to convey the power. It feels much more grounded than later beam attacks would. There's something very raw about it, which helps as a viewer make you feel that this would hurt to be hit by, which more sort of modern sci-fi sounds often don't capture as well.
I mean, which frankly, if you think about it, the Kamehameha wave hasn't hit a person yet. Roshi uses it to take out a volcano.
Yeah.
Goku uses it to take out a car. He uses it on a wall in Emperor Pilaf's. And I guess technically they don't hit each other. They just, ricochet off. Yeah, we haven't seen a full contact
Yeah,
Kamehameha.
like a full hit yet.
Which builds to next episode in its own special way.
See, maybe this is just like the nerd in me. When I was younger, I always kind of tried to figure out how the beams actually worked because it seemed like every beam had something different going for it. And in my mind, the Kamehameha has more like how Cyclops when he opens his eyes, it's punches from the punch dimension. It's just all kinetic energy coming out of his face. Uh, I've always kind of thought of the Kamehameha wave as being more kinetic energy and less like hot, like the Gallic gun seems to be. But I don't know how accurate that is. That's just how my brain interprets it. And the thing I liked about the beam struggle too is you can see both of them are looking away from the beams. Like they can't look into the beam. It's too bright. And I think that that's actually a very fun little detail.
Yeah, no, the beam clash has some really nice bits like that, and the fact that both seem to be working it, like Goku, they are moving, they are twisting slightly. It's very much said like in wrestling when you have like a headlock. They work best when both people they're not just stood still, they are fighting for position or moving in different ways. They do that here, which again, something that later Dragon Ball will drop, unfortunately, and it is worse for it. I understand why, because why waste animators' time? But here it's really nice. It does make it feel like even though we are distant from each other, we are still effectively fighting, we are still jockeying, and this is a difficult technique to pull off, which again is why the audience are excited, because this is rare for the next 2 weeks until Yamcha will learn it, and then, sorry, we've gentrified the beam attack.
Gentrified the beam attack.
Teaching it to Yamcha.
If we don't get like a t-shirt of Yamcha, just like in a polo shirt using the Kamehameha, and that's not the sign on it, I quit. I'm done.
Also, just to sort of build on Yamcha, I do love how we're still having these moments of Yamcha and Krillin shouting in, and we're having Bulma shouting in. It does a good job of keeping them in the episode in a way that feels really natural. And I just love that they're still here. It really helps with Goku's arc. This all sets up next episode as well, where you see them here. They are like, Goku is going to trounce this guy and we are going to have a lovely time. And they do a really good job of setting up what is the big emotional beat. This is the problem with this episode to talk about, is that so much of this episode is here to foreshadow and set up beats that will all be paid off next episode. The next episode pays off pretty much the entire tournament saga. We've had the setting up of these little beats that are all just going to be harvested in one massive go.
Yeah, it's really cool. We have again the benefit of hindsight, but this is the kind of episode that can easily hook you in to keep you watching. Like we're old anime fans here. We've been around the block. We've been through many tournament arcs in many different series, some of them involving food. But there is something about these kinds of episodes where they have like the multiple episode fights and they have to grab you. They have to keep you wondering what's going to happen next. And this episode does a very good job of doing that. We all know that that's not true of every single tournament arc, but this one does a very good job.
Oh yeah, even when I was watching this episode, I keep having that moment of knowing what's coming next, but in the moment forgetting it, which like I was surprised by the after image. It's like, I know that happens. I wrote about it 2 weeks ago. But just in that moment, it pulled me in so much that just for a minute, my brain was like, no, I'm invested in this story in the present. And I am actually, and that's amazing for a show. I must have seen this episode, God, coming up to 15 times in full. And then however many times I've looked at bits of other things. So the fact I can still sit there and go, oh, is Goku going to pull this off is surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I also like that Yamcha kind of has come around on his Jackie Chun suspicions because of the ruse from the previous episode.
He's gone full circle.
He's been gaslighted successfully.
Poor Yamcha. Yamcha can't even win at mind games.
I mean, based on what we see Roshi do, there's a reason for that. Yes, as we're coming to the end of the episode, we can set up. This episode does set up what I will talk about next episode is another first for Dragon Ball, because we end on the actual cliffhanger of Roshi building up a move. They make a big deal of this, and the narrator makes a big deal of this. Yeah, he jazz hands his way through. It's an ending of an episode that is probably the first direct cliffhanger. No, I guess
the closest it gets is when I think the biggest cliffhanger we had before is when Goku's in full-on Great Ape mode and destroys Pilaf's palace. And
yeah,
Great Ape mode at the end of that for the stinger.
This is like the first mid-action cut off. Come back next week to see how this plays out. We've had
tune in next time.
Yeah, tune in next time, and it does a very good job of it. It feels like a cliffhanger, which we'll see. Oh, Dragon Ball, you love to hurt me. Any final thoughts? We're reaching the episode and end of the episode, and we want to get into that cliffhanger.
Wow, yeah, we're very excited about it. I think my major final thought around this particular episode is not only the animation also looks great here, and I just want to quickly point that out, especially when Roshi's doing his drunken master thing. It's very fluid, especially for Toei, which sometimes has that Hanna-Barbera energy. But the thing I really love, especially because we're basically at the end of the tournament arc, I love that this tournament arc is able to keep its energy going so easily and so naturally. And unlike other tournament arcs that we will see in the future, we don't have to get a lot of like fake out payoffs, which is really great. And this is a great episode for that. And screw it, I just love cute little Goku doing cute little Goku things. Just like this is all a game to him, and Roshi's like, no, I need to beat the crap out of you for your own good.
You're going to take this and you're going to like it.
You will die in the game and die in real life at the same time.
Yeah. Exactly. Meanwhile, Goku's like head empty, no thoughts, just fun.
Yeah. This is a lot of fun for him, even though it's a life and death struggle for Roshi at this point.
Any other final thoughts, Sam?
I mean, it's a great fight. It's there's still some kind of goofball stuff, but we're about to get into. I mean, if we're talking cliffhangers, next week's cliffhanger is even bigger
and better.
Yeah.
I have one. It's a piece of fun Toriyama business. Guess how many times we see Roshi using drunken boxing after this? 0. It never comes back up again. The next person to officially use drunken boxing is Gia in the Gia manga. When their suit gets its water replaced with alcohol when they're fighting Vamp.
Huh.
Hello. Sorry, I'm going to get to reference Gia like never. So whenever I get the chance to bring Gia up, it was a Toriyama. It was like a 3-shot. It's linked to Galactic Patrolman stuff. It's very, very good. Just everyone forgot about it because it only ran for 3 issues, and it got localized like 10 years later or something stupid. So yeah, the next time we see drunken boxing used, Gia is using it, and then they're totally forgotten. Oh Gia, I love that little thing. So yeah, gonna bring it up.
Yeah. Nice. Well, next week you get to see us drunken box each other. No,
that's on the Patreon.
That's on the Patreon, so make sure you subscribe.
Probably the only fans based on the violence.
Yeah.
Oh, man, they're gonna have to cut that. Okay.
That's going. That's cut. Forget that.
That's cut. But We want to thank you once again for joining us on DBR on CBR. That's right, it has been Dragon Ball Rewatch. We hope you continue watching along with us on Hulu and Crunchyroll, perhaps both at the same time. And we hope you continue reading along with us in the Viz Media translation of the manga. Once again, we have been your hosts. My name is Alex.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John.
And we'll see you next time on Dragon Ball. Let's hit that cliffhanger.